Unearthing the Bat Key Battle Formation and dredging the Talich River have cost many people dearly. Hello and welcome back to episode 11 of the show Absolute Secret. Ladies and gentlemen, it can be affirmed that humanity is living in an era of unprecedented advancements in science and technology. As announced, the program will enhance knowledge and improve daily quality of life. However, there are still countless mysterious phenomena around us that science cannot yet explain. There are things beyond explanation, leaving people restless in their endless search for answers. The shocking phenomenon of the Talich River once stirred nationwide public opinion due to its related incidents. The mystery unfolded at the very cusp of 2 centuries, as the world stepped into a new millennium. Amid the relentless advancement of science, this issue has sparked considerable debate regarding the truth of this matter remains highly debated. Some consider it a normal occurrence, while others express concern. According to those involved, some firmly believe that the phenomenon of great inflation is real. Since June 2001, VSC Construction Joint Venture has won the bid for package number 7 of the project. The Hanoi Drainage System Improvement Project, abbreviated CPTA, focuses on dredging and reinforcing the banks of the Talich River with stone embankments. From here, a series of strange events began to unfold. Mr. Nguyen Hung Quang, the leader of construction team number 12, said, directly overseeing the construction phase of the river section passing through In Phu Village, Nia Du Ward, Khao Zay District. These unusual events might just be mere coincidences. But the possibility that this is a supernatural matter cannot be ruled out, and he himself is one of those who directly experienced the incident. Before starting the construction, Mr. Quang hired Mr. Pham Ngoc An, a hydraulic engineer, as the technical specialist. During the on-site survey, Mr. Ngoc An discovered a very large temple located on the riverbank in Phu Village. Only upon asking did I learn that this temple dates back to the Li dynasty. Take on this river section construction, Later on, whenever he recalled it, Mr. Quang always regretted not having followed that advice in the first place. On August 15, 2001, Mr. Quang offered incense and performed rituals at the Den Quan Doi Shrine. Bulldozers and excavators have just been brought to the riverbank to begin construction. Suddenly, the flame on the incense stick flared up violently, sending a strange, sharp pain through Mr. Quang's chest. He recalled that it took him a while to strike a flame, and just as he placed the incense stick into the bowl, an incident was reported outside the construction site. I quickly bowed a few times and ran out. After pumping water from the river, the workers discovered a series of ironwood stakes driven in rows along the riverbed. Seeing the situation like this, Mr. Quang immediately ordered everyone to pull up all the stakes. But as soon as he pulled out the 2 stakes, the excavator suddenly lost control and drifted down the river. The embankment suddenly broke, causing water to flood in and completely submerge the excavator. I was just about to calm down when suddenly I heard someone scream loudly. It turned out that in the pile of freshly scooped muddy sludge, there were nothing but animal bones, human bones, along with objects made of iron, bronze, and pottery, such as ancient coins, bronze coins, bowls, plates, needles, knives, sickles, and similar items. At that moment, Mr. Quang suddenly realized this was no longer a trivial matter. He had someone collect all the artifacts that were found, then reported the incident to the Hanoi Museum. Afterward, the museum staff arrived at the scene to collect the artifacts and bring them back for preservation. Here are the natural English translations. That evening, Mr. Hung, the excavator operator who had been pulling out stakes, suddenly had an epileptic seizure despite being in good health. He thrashed about like a headless chicken, foam frothing at his mouth, eyes rolling back into his skull. Hung's family sensed something ominous and hurriedly prepared offerings to bring to the riverbank. Weeping bitterly, they reverently presented the gifts. Mr. Quang confided that the worst moment was right after the ceremony, when they had just burned half of the joss paper offerings, then the phone rang with terrible news. Here are the natural English translations for each option. At this moment, Mr. Quang was completely bewildered, unsure of what to do. My friend in Mok Wai, Hai Phong has a very skilled French teacher. Mr. Quang immediately rushed there by motorbike to invite the master to help exorcise the evil spirits. But when he realized what had happened, Master Phap suddenly widened his eyes and shouted, "The negative energy here is too strong, I don't have the power to handle it." It took a lot of pleading before Mr. Quang could persuade Master Phap to return to Hanoi. But he only dared to hold the prayer ceremony for peace by the riverbank. Master Phap finished the work overnight and hurried back to Hai Phong. A few days later, based on conclusions from the museum and historians, At this moment, Mr. Kwong realized this was the 8 trigrams formation. Guard the gate of Daila Citadel since the 9th century. Professor Tran Kwok Vong also thoughtfully advised Mr. Kwong. Care must be taken to avoid affecting the health and lives of the workers. Knowing that Mr. Kwong is a very meticulous worker, he and the workers gathered all the human bones, carefully wrapped them, and reburied them by the riverbank. Every day, someone is sent there to burn incense and clean up. But every day when we till the soil, we find human bones, sometimes even skulls lying exposed. However, the work still made no progress, built up only to collapse again, like piling sand by the shore. Having invested all his assets into the project, Mr. Kwong couldn't quit halfway. Therefore, on one hand, he improved construction techniques. On the other hand, they still seek out renowned fortune tellers known for their ability to reverse bad luck. But all efforts were in vain. Many workers have quit their jobs due to excessive physical and mental pressure. In November 2001, after much pleading, Mr. Kwong invited Venerable Thich Vien Ton from Hong Pagoda to preside over the offering ceremony. As soon as he arrived, the teacher sat down, closed his eyes, and began chanting Buddhist scriptures. The teacher chanted for a while, then stood up and said, "This is an extremely dangerous calamity of remembrance, so disciples, I shall immediately perform a ritual to dispel it." Afterward, the master set up a gold paper offering altar by the riverbank to pray for the salvation of the departed soul. After the ceremony, the teacher spoke, though he had tried to prolong his words. "But you must be careful, especially Kwong, who will bear the heaviest consequences. Family, siblings, and descendants, none can escape calamity." The teacher sadly said that this very act of oppression made it nearly impossible to preserve his life. What shocked Mr. Kwong even more? 3 months later, he received news that his teacher, Yuan Qingyuan, had passed away. The disciples recounted that before passing away, the master had instructed. The teacher died in the earthquake that occurred at the Talich River. However, the work still showed no progress, and the steel embankment remained intact. The water surged violently from below, the hastily built dikes broke instantly, and even the stones they placed were swept away. After that, Mr. Kwong hired a drilling rig and conducted several test drills to survey the geology. It's strange, every time we drill a short section, drill bit number 1 breaks. The same thing happened 3 times in a row. The rig owner didn't demand payment, quietly dismantled the rig, and left. During the day, the workers toil hard and suffer workplace accidents. At night, they are haunted by nightmares of ghosts and demons. Those in silk tunics and folded hats shooed them away, not allowing them to rest. A construction worker named Thuong, from Nguyen, was sleeping in the site shack. "Every night, I dream of an old woman. She grabs my hair and chases me away, muttering under her breath. This isn't the place for you to make a living. Go back to your hometown." But Mr. Thuong wouldn't even listen, stubbornly insisting that it was nothing but a foolish pipe dream. Not only did they stay to work, but they also encouraged their colleagues to continue sticking together. After 3 days on the job, his wife, who was in charge of cooking for the workers, suffered severe third-degree burns over her entire body. He was so scared that he took his wife to the hospital and quit his job right after. Another example is Mr. Hoang, originally from Bac Ninh, who is currently working as a foreman. One day, just as Lean stepped on a headless log, she received a message from her hometown saying his father is critically ill and in life-threatening condition, so we had to rush him to the emergency room. Mr. Nguyen Van Dong, the valedictorian, is someone who is always passionate about collecting antiques and historical relics. Mom had a stroke. After Venerable Thich Vien Ton performed the ritual to dispel the curse, Mr. Tran Van Loy. An active experimenter is someone who isn't afraid to try new things. Just stepped out of the shower when I heard the news that my hometown home was hit by a grenade. I had a very close nephew, yet he suddenly passed away. Mr. Kwong Chua Sat said, "The workers were so terrified that they all quit their jobs, and in the evenings, they only dared to stand by the desolate banks of the Hoang River. My heart suddenly constricted, bitter and choking. What wrong have I even done, that the gods would make me suffer so?" By the end of 2001, only a few workers close to Mr. Kwong remained on the construction site. But the situation still didn't improve. Every time they built a dike to block the water, it would break right away. Since this incident affected many people, the press at the time published articles about the strange phenomena around the construction site of the Talich River section flowing through Phu village. Even the Institute of Psychology, the Hanoi Museum, or psychics in the field of parapsychology At the same time, we also hold discussions right at the construction site. Archaeologists and historians state that this section of the Talich River is a relic belonging to the central complex of the ancient Daila citadel. Spiritual practitioners believe this place is a crucial stronghold of evil spirits, imprisoning countless malevolent demons. The discovered skeletons most likely belong to individuals who were sacrificed alive and buried in rituals meant to suppress evil spirits. Because Mr. Kwong trespassed into their territory, he was haunted by evil spirits. All participants must bear the misfortune. That is their punishment. Matters of gods, spirits, and demons are things few have ever truly witnessed. But the risks we have to bear are truly terrifying. Not long after, a worker named Tui, from Ninh Binh, went down to the riverbed to cut down the tall trees. That night, while working on the construction site, he suddenly fell seriously ill and had to be rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. It's not over yet. The next morning, Mr. Tui unexpectedly received a phone call from a relative. News came that your mother back home was in a traffic accident and suffered a traumatic brain injury. That afternoon, as sorrow still weighed heavily upon him, he suddenly received the devastating news about his 7th grade son. I fell from the sidewalk down to the yard and slipped right onto the root of a milkwood tree. The strange thing is, the distance from the sidewalk to the yard was so short, yet he's only 30 centimeters taller than me. The next day, his mother had a brain hemorrhage. At that moment, his emotions were too complex to put into words. Even though the child was running a high fever, but he still managed to get up, ran to the Riverside Temple to complete the ceremony before returning to his hometown. Mr. Kwong recounted that he only later found out his family had encountered even more misfortunes. You must perform all the rituals properly, only then can you survive. At this point, Mr. Kwong found himself in a dilemma as he had invested all his capital into this project. He said, if I just left like that, not only would I suffer harm, but my family and clan would also be implicated. This is no small matter. A lot of people already know about it. The press also covered the incident, but when he reported the issue to the contractor company, he received no attention from the board of directors. The director not only failed to offer any help but also mocked and criticized Mr. Kwong. Because of this, he was determined. Because of my hard-earned savings, and also for the honor of a construction engineer, I carefully discussed with my trusted brothers and resolved to see the work through to the end. However, within the company, there was still one leader who always understood and fully supported him. Here are the 2 English translation options, depending on tone preference. Among them was Master Mao, a native of Vinh Toi Village, Hanoi. After many invitations, it wasn't until June 2002 that Master Mao finally agreed to come to the construction site to perform the ceremony. Set up an altar and arrange a battle formation to exorcise demons and vanquish evil spirits. This time, the ritual altar was set up on a grand scale, complete with all offerings from savory dishes, fruits, and incense tables to banners and flags, lacking nothing. The entire company leadership was present, except for the former director, who had once worked at Mr. Kwong's house, was absent. Throughout the 2-day festival, hundreds of people flocked to watch, creating an incredibly lively atmosphere. If you dig up this bone, you'll suffer for life. Now you may finish the job, but your family will face unforeseeable disasters. You will lose everything most precious to you. Your brothers will be scattered, each to his own path, and will endure much suffering. I perform the ritual for you, but there must be a price. Though it may not cost your life, I fear you may never fully recover as before. As soon as he stepped into the house, Mr. Mao suddenly collapsed and lost consciousness. For the next half-month, Mr. Mao drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes complaining of a headache, other times of restlessness in his body. Mr. Mao's family took him to hospitals everywhere, but no doctor could diagnose his illness. From then on, he gradually recovered from his illness, but his health had significantly weakened. Through this incident, Mr. Kwong became completely convinced of the passing of Master Thich Van Ton at Hong Temple in the past. This happened because they set up an altar to break the long-standing formation on the Talich River. But this time was truly strange. After Master Mao completed the ritual, all construction work suddenly became much smoother. Tea overflow, and the embankment didn't. More than a third of the river section was allocated to him. At this point, Mr. Kwong decided to stop because his strength was exhausted, and on top of that, his funds had run out. But the disaster didn't end there. As Mr. Kwong was about to let the workers take a break, one of the laborers suddenly had an epileptic seizure. Right there at the construction site, he lay unconscious, eyes tightly shut, foam frothing at his mouth. When the seizure passed, they still weren't fully conscious, muttering incomprehensible nonsense. Here you go, here you go. Here are the English translation options for your Vietnamese text. Last year, Mr. Quang's construction team retrieved several artifacts from the riverbed. Mr. Tuan went to ask Mr. Quang for a bowl of chrysanthemums from the Li Dynasty era, then brought it home to decorate. But from that moment on, his family faced continuous misfortunes, and their business remained perpetually troubled, never finding success. When he went to Laos for work, a shaman was startled the moment he saw Mr. Tuan and exclaimed, "Do you keep anything of the deceased?" He replied, "No, I don't. You must try hard to remember it clearly. I see many spirits behind you demanding something from you. Perhaps it was their rice bowl. You took it from them by the river, leaving them with nothing to eat from. You have to pay them right away, or there will be trouble." Mr. Tuan suddenly remembered the incident with the bowl, and sweat broke out all over his body, drenching him. Mr. Dan had to postpone his business trip and return to Hanoi to prepare an apology offering. And drop the bowl back into the Talich River, exactly where Mr. Quang's construction team had retrieved it from before. When the incident happened, Mr. Tuan was chased by a ghost, forcing him to throw the chrysanthemum-patterned bowl into the river. Here are the translations for both versions. He still works as diligently and energetically as a young man in his prime. After Mr. Tuan returned the bowl to the river on the exact day she passed away, July 27, 2002. Mr. Quang's father had just returned home from an outing and was resting while drinking water when he suddenly suffered a stroke due to a cerebral hemorrhage. Despite receiving emergency treatment, he passed away just 6 hours later. This is the greatest loss in Mr. Quang's life. He is fully aware of all the dangers coming his way. After his father's funeral ended, Mr. Quang immediately went to the construction site and dug up all 8 mooring anchors from the riverbed. Hiding temporarily along the riverbank, bathing thoroughly, changing into fine clothes, and holding a solemn ceremony. Take all to Bat Back Cemetery for burial, so the departed souls may rest in peace and tranquility. In the pain of losing his father, before the altar, Mr. Quang sobbed loudly while praying, his voice so clear that everyone around could hear. With sincere reverence, the devotee humbly asks for the forgiveness of the departed souls for any unintentional disturbance to their resting place. But the faithful are merely workers, following the orders of their superiors to carry out their duties. Now I'm exhausted, with people dead and sick, and the money all gone. If the spirits wish to hold anyone accountable, let them hold Mr. Nguyen Quang Hung, director of VSC Company, and Mr. Nguyen Trong Don responsible. Project Director. May the gentle spirits kindly forgive me. Mr. Quang also mentioned that during the entire period when the incident occurred along this section of the Talich River, Mr. Hung and Mr. Don always seemed skeptical, never willing to trust or help with anything. They even mocked and obstructed his construction work. And what was even more terrifying was that just 2 days after Mr. Quang ordered the relocation of all 8 remains at Bat Bat Cemetery. During a business trip in Quang Binh, the car carrying Mr. Nguyen Quang Hung and several company officials was involved in an accident. The Toyota car was completely destroyed by artillery fire, and Mr. Nguyen Quang Hung was severely injured with 3 broken ribs. Many accompanying officials also contracted the disease. It didn't stop there. About a month later, the office of the Project Management Department, directly overseen by Nguyen Trong Don and located in Yen Zhou, or Yen Exa *, Hanoi, suddenly erupted in a fierce blaze. The 2-story house, which had served as the project office and the offices of several construction companies involved in the project, was completely burned down. After completing 150 meters out of the total 360 meters length, Mao Quang continued with the construction, but serious incidents later occurred. Exhausted and out of funds, Mr. Quang was forced to request contract liquidation. Cruel and inhumane, VSC Company coldly terminated the contract without offering even a penny in support. This project cost Mr. Quang 500 million dong in losses. Mr. Quang returned to his fortune-telling profession, praying and making offerings everywhere. Everywhere he went, he was warned that he was facing a great calamity. Battle formation to capture monsters. The workers unearthed many ancient bowls, dishes, and cups, of which Mr. Quang kept some intact pieces. Among them was a black scepter, likened to the treasure of Professor Tran Quoc Vong, an extremely rare artifact. Upon arriving in Nguyen, Mr. Quang ran out of money and considered selling his bicycle. The guest from Hanoi, after a day of bargaining, agreed to buy that antique for nearly $10,000. After finalizing the agreement, the guest returned to the hotel to get the money, then came back to bid farewell to Mr. Quang. Meanwhile, the sparrow remained on the table. The guest had just brought the money, but before they could count it, they were horrified to see the pliers lying there. No one dared to touch them. Suddenly, it shattered into pieces. The startled customers fled in panic. At that moment, Mr. Kwon was so terrified that he immediately grabbed the remaining antiques and rushed to Hanoi. I met Professor Tran Quoc Vong and had a long conversation with him. At that time, Professor Tran Quoc Vong had just gotten married. That afternoon, he kept laughing at Mr. Kwon for being so easily scared. He explained to Mr. Kwon that items submerged underwater for a long time would, when brought up into the air, the water evaporates, causing the clay to dry out and making the pottery